I can speak to the gas tax issue because I wrote an op-ed in the New York Times some years ago that makes precisely the point that we do need a tax on gasoline, I think, as a substitute for, if not a complement to, other policies that we have in place to deal with the externalities associated with using oil in transportation. So I think that the main reason, I think I absolutely agree with you. I would love to see a tax on gasoline. I just want to use an anecdote from the response I got to that op-ed, which laid out an argument for why that was not only the most cost-effective, but also potentially much more palatable from a distributional perspective, because this is a policy where you're generating revenues, you're potentially able to fix roads, you're potentially able to offset the worst impacts on those families that use the most gasoline. But I think what really was telling for me, so I wrote this op-ed and I got a call from an irate person who said, you know, you're in your ivory tower, I bet you don't own a car, I bet you walk to work, I really feel like you just don't understand, you know, me and the people I represent who, you know, drive 30 miles to work every day. And again, I mean, my response to that, and I think this is also telling, so there are two things. I actually, and he left his number. He said, but you won't call me because you're too busy in your ivory tower. And I said, look, I'm going to call this guy back from an unlisted number. I picked up the phone, and it turns out that I learned in that conversation that this was someone who was actually hired by a consortium of medium and small businesses who are going to be very hurt by a higher gasoline tax. So this was someone who was essentially astroturfing, posing as a grassroots individual who was actually trying to influence me and others who write towards these causes. And then the other thing, by the end of the conversation, I had actually convinced him that a gasoline tax was a good idea, that it might, he said, look, I really, and this is, I think, the point, he said, I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to call me and explain your argument to me. It means a lot because it's not very common that people in your position reach out and talk to people in my position. And so I think that's a message to all of us that we can actually make this climate change action something that's inclusive, that's popular, that's interesting, that's fun, that, you know, doesn't have to be a huge burden, and at least we can articulate our arguments in a way that connects with people, and I think that makes a big difference.
So I actually want to recommend that Valerie go and have this conversation with Donald Trump and Senator Cruz.
Right, but he'll publish your cell phone number, so be careful.
And also to be using John Sturman's number to make the call from.
I don't know why I go into such abuse. Can I make a really fast comment? The thing about the price of gasoline is it's $1.73 where I live at the pump, but the real cost, the real price is probably around $8 a gallon. And that is a real cost that people really pay. They pay for it in healthcare, they pay for it in congestion, lost time, accidents, and all kinds of other harms, wholly aside from the climate damage. All a carbon price would do is put the correct true price in front of people so they can make wise decisions. And all the revenue from that would come back to people, and we would be better off. Essentially, every study of this shows people would be better off in their own narrow, self-defined way under a price for carbon than without it, because you're paying it now.